Most people do not wake up wanting to cause harm. They wake up wanting stability, security, a sense that their life makes sense. They want to do their job properly, follow the rules, meet expectations, avoid conflict, and go home believing they are decent people. This is where the story usually begins, not with cruelty, not with hatred, but with normality. Because when we look at history, something uncomfortable becomes clear. Large-scale harm is rarely carried out by villains acting alone. It is carried out by ordinary people inside systems, doing what feels required. Systems do not ask people to be evil. They ask them to participate. They ask them to process requests, to follow procedures, to meet deadlines, to respect hierarchy. At first, nothing feels wrong. The task is small, administrative, abstract. You are not hurting anyone. You are just filling out a form, approving a document, forwarding an email. Each action feels insignificant, because on its own, it is. This is the first illusion systems create, that harm only exists at the final step. But systems are designed so no one ever stands at the end. Responsibility is divided, fragmented, spread thin. One person designs the policy, another interprets it, another enforces it, another deals with the consequences. No single individual feels fully responsible, because no single individual feels fully in control. Inside a system, responsibility moves upward, or sideways, or disappears entirely. And this is not an accident. This is how large systems survive. Psychologists call this diffusion of responsibility, but emotionally, it feels like relief. Because deciding is heavy. Judging is uncomfortable. Being responsible is risky. Systems remove that weight. They define your role. They draw a boundary around your actions. Anything outside that boundary feels like someone else's problem. This is why systems feel safe, even when they produce harm. They replace conscience with procedure, and procedure feels neutral. But neutrality is not harmless. It is powerful. When morality becomes procedural, the question quietly changes. Not, is this right, but, is this allowed? That shift changes everything. Because once permission replaces judgment, the individual begins to disappear. This is why bureaucracy is so effective and so dangerous. It does not rely on fear. It relies on structure. Rules create predictability. Predictability reduces anxiety, and reduced anxiety feels like stability. When someone in authority says, "This is protocol," or "This is how it's done," the brain relaxes. Thinking slows down. Doubt fades. Responsibility feels lighter. Over time, this becomes a habit. People stop seeing outcomes. They see metrics, targets, compliance rates. Numbers replace faces. Processes replace consequences. And when harm appears, it feels distant, indirect, abstract. This is how good people remain silent, not because they agree, but because disagreement feels undefined. There is rarely a clear moment to object, no dramatic turning point, no obvious line to cross. Instead, there is a slow drift. Each step feels too small to resist, too normal to question, too embedded in routine. Refusal, on the other hand, feels extreme, visible, risky. It threatens status, security, belonging. And humans are deeply social creatures. We are wired to avoid exclusion, to avoid loss, to avoid standing alone, especially when the harm feels indirect, when no one is visibly suffering in front of us, when the consequences are delayed. So silence becomes the default, not because it is chosen, but because it is easier. Over time, silence begins to feel like professionalism, like maturity, like realism. I'm just doing my job. This sentence sounds reasonable, responsible, even moral. But psychologically, it performs a powerful function. It removes the self from the action. The person becomes a role, a function, a mechanism. I didn't decide this. I didn't design the system. I don't make the rules. Each statement feels true. And together, they erase accountability. This is how systems turn people into participants without asking for belief. Belief is unnecessary. Compliance is enough. History shows this pattern again and again, in institutions, in corporations, in governments, not through dramatic acts of violence, but through routine, paperwork, processes. Harm becomes efficient, quiet, well organized. And because it is calm, it feels legitimate. Authority does not need to shout. It does not need to threaten. In fact, calm authority is more effective. A confident tone, a title, a uniform, an official seal. These signals bypass conscious reasoning. They activate obedience automatically. The brain interprets them as safety cues, as legitimacy. And once legitimacy is assumed, resistance feels irrational, even dangerous. This is why systems outlive individuals, and why individuals disappear inside them. A single cruel person can only do limited harm, but a neutral person inside a powerful system can do immense harm, not because they are cruel, but because they no longer experience themselves as an actor. You might ask why people don't simply refuse. The answer is uncomfortable. Refusal carries cost, punishment, isolation, loss of income, loss of identity. And humans are wired to avoid loss more strongly than they are wired to pursue moral ideals, especially when the system rewards compliance, promotes it, normalizes it. But obedience is not inevitable. There is one factor that consistently breaks this pattern: personal responsibility. When people are reminded clearly and directly that the outcome depends on them, obedience drops. When the system cracks and the individual reappears, morality returns. Language matters here. Orders were followed versus I chose to do this. One sentence hides responsibility, the other restores it. The most dangerous phrase in modern systems is not hatred. It is not ideology. It is, I was just doing my job. Because that sentence ends reflection. Understanding this does not mean rejecting all systems. Society needs structure, rules, coordination. But it means remembering something essential. Systems can guide action. They cannot replace conscience. When they do, harm becomes normalized, invisible, routine. The real question is not whether systems can turn good people into silent participants. They can. The real question is whether you notice the moment when silence feels reasonable, when obedience feels professional, when responsibility quietly disappears. That moment rarely feels dramatic. It feels calm, orderly, normal, which is exactly why it is dangerous. This is not a story about villains. It is a story about systems and about how easily good people vanish inside them. Understanding that is not pessimistic. It is protective, because awareness is the only thing that turns participation back into choice.